Hello and welcome to another episode of Taylor Talks Comics. Today I'm going to go over my entire comic book haul from New York City, my recent visit there. Alright, so I recently made a big trip to Pennsylvania and New York City. It was my first time being in New York City. It was a little bit of a graduation trip because I just graduated college, finally, even though I'm in my mid-30s. So I went to, I think, 6 different shops throughout my time in PA and NYC, and I wanted to show off everything I got. So let's do this. I always love doing a good comic book haul. You can see 2 of the shops I went to were Forbidden Planet, where I got this cool tote bag, I guess. I really regret, I think one of my big regrets is not getting some Forbidden Planet t-shirts because they had some really cool ones. They're only like $10. And then the other shop I went to was, that I got a bag for at least, was Midtown Comics. I'm not keeping those. I just wanted to show off their logos and whatnot. I guess let's start off with Midtown. So Midtown Comics, I went to the one in Manhattan, like downtown. That's where we were staying, and it was just like a block away from our hotel, so it was great. It was within, well, everything was within walking distance, really, but quick walking distance. And the only thing I got there, I think my son got some manga and stuff like Kirby and I know some of the comics. The only thing I picked up from Midtown, though, was All Time Comics. This is a trade paperback that I've been meaning to pick up. This is published by Floating World. And basically it's superheroes, but done by a bunch of, like, independent creators. So it's like a creator-owned type deal. And the stories are mostly by Josh Bayer. But the art is, you have artists in here. You have Jim Rugg, you have Gilbert Hernandez, Anders Nielsen, you've got Ben Mara, who I'm a big fan of, Rich Buckler Jr., which is great, and Noah Van Sciver. And you can see it there. It's very much like it's done in the pastiche of old school Marvel comics, but it's much more adult in nature in terms of like violence and storytelling. It really kind of reminds me of something that would be like ripped from 70s Marvel with more of an adult theme. If 70s Marvel had like a Max imprint, if that's a weird, it's a weird thing, but the Max imprint from early 2000s Marvel, if that existed in the 70s, that's kind of what this comic book feels like to me. But it's just awesome cartooning and awesome superhero comics. One thing I've been getting into lately is independent superhero comics. They have like fake ads in the back too, which I'm always a big fan of. Crime Destroyer, which I got the Crime Destroyer Kickstarter last year, the Shaky Kane, which I think some of his art's in here too. But Shaky Kane did a one, it wasn't a Kickstarter, I'm sorry. It was just published by Floating World Comics. And there's Crime Destroyer. And I got that, and it's one of my favorite single issues from last year. But that's All Time Comics. I hope they have come out with issues since this, and it does have a volume 1 on it. So I hope they keep publishing it in this format. That'd be really cool. Let's do Desert Island. So in Brooklyn, I went to Desert Island Comics. They are the publisher, I guess, of Smoke Signal, which are these newsprint. And they're always free if you're in the store, or you can, I think you can order them online and just pay shipping. But they had 3 issues in there, and the gentleman that runs Desert Island Comics said, yeah, pick up however many you want. So these later ones too, so Smoke Signal is And I think it started off as an anthology. There's Desert Island comics. And then these later issues have been like focused on one cartoonist. It's like this issue. I don't know what the issue number is. I don't know. I thought they had issue numbers on them. Oh, this is number 36. So this one is done by Brian Blumerth. Blumerth? I don't think I've ever said his name out loud. He does a comic which I'll show you later, but he also did a bicycle shoot. What's the name of that book? Bicycle Day, which was a comic telling you the history of LSD. And he has this like really, like I love his artwork. I think Bicycle Day, which I'll do a video on probably later, and then I'll show off another book he did, which I picked up at Desert Island. His artwork, obviously you can see it has like some homages or some inspiration maybe from like the old school Disney Mickey Mouse cartoons, like the old school ones. But it's just like bright colors. I think every page of Bicycle Day felt like a pinup poster to me. His artwork's just amazing, and it's just so interesting to look at. It's like psychedelic old Disney comics with like an underground comics feel to it. And just like his layouts and design is amazing to me. It's like he could be an incredible, I just ripped the page. He could be an incredible like graphic designer too. But this whole issue here, 36, was all Brian Blumerth. This one was issue, let's see. These are like thick, like padded out, like these are full, and they're like broadsheet. Maybe not broadsheet size, but they're full sized. This one was issue number 34, and it's featuring comics by Baptiste Verreau. You see that name right there? I'm not familiar with Baptiste Verreau. I think he's European of some sort. I forget where I looked it up, but so this is like really, again, psychedelic, trippy kind of comics. Great design too, great page layouts and design and color choices. Just really interesting, fun comics. So this is really cool. Like that page is awesome. Check that one out. It's just really things that are pushing the comics medium, I feel like. Here's another great, I mean, that could be a poster. Just two people sitting on their couch watching the world end. So there's that one, and then this one is featuring, I think this is issue number 35. Yeah, issue 35. And it's all work by Hinonori Kikuchi. See there? And that's a cartoonist I've never heard of, but you can see that his art is just like insanely detailed. Like I get like almost Jim Woodring vibes a little bit to like how like perfectly drawn it is, but also like the insane detail in the artwork is like, I think a modern contemporary would be like Theo Ellsworth maybe. But mostly wordless comics in this one, but just incredible art that just like you just stare at forever. So it was a great one too. So those were free from Desert Island. The books that I got from them that I paid for, I got Complete Matinee Junkie. So there weren't a lot of comics that I got. Let me turn the light off. Might improve the glare. There we go. There weren't a lot of comics that I got over this whole trip that I had never heard of the cartoonist or never heard of the book itself. But I wanted to take a chance on one, and this is one I had never heard of. This is Jordan Jeffries, and this is The Complete Matinee Junkie, 5 years of the movies. So this is like a slice of life comics. Jordan Jeffrey, I think he's serialized on Instagram or maybe on his own website. But it's just all about his experiences seeing all the different movies. You can see like the movie tickets he even puts in his panel, which is fun too. But also like his life and his things that were going on in his life as he was seeing these movies. And these were all movies that took place think there's a years in here. Because I remember when I flipped through it, it was like, this is the era that I was going to the movie theaters like every weekend. So that really kind of piqued my interest too, because it's like, I kind of went on the journey, same journey. But yeah, so just like fun slice of life comics that I love. It's all about him and his relationship and his friendships with people while seeing movies. So I took a chance on that one. I never heard of it, but so far I've been enjoying it. This is the Brian Blumerth comic that I was talking about. So Bicycle Day, which I'll probably do a Brian Blumerth episode, like a cartoonist spotlight, because he's just incredible. So I told you Bicycle Day was about the invention of LSD. This one, which I can't even pronounce, is Mycelium wasani, I think. Let me put that on the camera so you can look it up that way if you need to. But if you just look at Brian Blumerth, that's his signature right there, you'll be able to find him. You see it's pretty thick volume here. And this one's about the invention and creation of mushrooms, the drug. And I was flipped through here too, because you can see his incredible artwork. And they're well researched too, like Bicycle Day and this one. Like just incredible stuff here. They're well researched, but like there's a lot of wordless parts too, where you're just kind of interpreting things. It's not by any means a direct like Wikipedia page of this is how these drugs were created. It definitely has that information, and you can see in the introduction, these are well researched, like he does his homework, but I don't know, it's just so weird to describe that you do learn about the invention of the drug, but through these crazy pages, this crazy, incredible artwork. I just love his artwork so much. Just a lot of splash pages too. There's not a lot of panel layouts, but it is comics. Like you can't deny that. Like this is comics. Just incredible work. So Brian Blumerth, I highly recommend his work if you're into weird comics or comics about drugs. I can't wait to see what he comes up with next. This is Heaven No Hell by Michael DeForge. Michael DeForge is a cartoonist that I've been getting into a lot lately. And this one was on, I think, Desert Island's best of year list. I think the gentleman that runs the shop, I wish I knew his name, but he did kind of post on his Instagram, which their Instagram is a good follow too, even if you plan on never going to Brooklyn. He just posts a lot about like great comics that you might not have heard of. So this is printed by Drawn and Quarterly. And like I said, this was on his best of year list, so I thought it'd be kind of cool to buy it from his shop. But Michael DeForge has the very abstract comics, very trippy, like psychedelic. I feel like I keep saying that word. It's a word I would use to describe his comics. But also great story to it too. Like, I mean, just normal 6-panel grids here, but then you get like this cool splash page. Like, so he's a cartoonist that I've been really getting into too. Just I love weird comics, and I feel like Michael DeForge fits that description. So I'm excited to dive into this. I haven't read this one yet, but Michael DeForge, again, looking out for more of his work. In the comments, please, if you see any cartoonists that I describe here and you feel like I should try out more of the work, or recommendation on other cartoonists that you think I would enjoy based on this work, please let me know. I love having conversation in the comments about that kind of stuff. I love talking comics. It's the point of this channel. And like and subscribe to this channel too while you're at it. Give it a thumbs up. So this is Bum, Unsmooth Volume 2 by E.S. Glynn. E.S. Glynn is like the cartoonist everybody should know right now. I feel like he should be bigger than he is. He's getting a lot of buzz on the underground kind of stuff, but I feel like his work is just incredible, and I love it. And I love that so this is Unsmooth 2. He did Unsmooth 1 that came out, I can't remember if it came out 2021 or 2022, but it's $15, but this is like album sized. I don't think I have any single issue comics to show off the trim size, but it is album size. It's larger than your average comic. And he has this incredible style to it. Like, you can't read his comics and not just think about how cool his comics look. And they're like, they're so weird to describe too, because they're somewhat biographical, I feel like, but also there's a bunch of guns and gunfights and stuff like that too, which I don't think E.S. Glynn is getting into. I hope not. So it's very much like a fictional biography. I don't know. Like, it's hard to describe. But what it is great comics. And I can't recommend them enough. Like, there's even like these characters that look like birds. This is E.S. Glynn, like that. If you follow him on Instagram, that's, you can tell this is like him. The stand-in for him. And he comes off like the coolest cartoonist ever on his Instagram, and he just comes off as super cool inside these comics. But you can see he's experimenting with things like this is like your 12-panel grid here, but then that's not like what he sticks with. He does like weird, trippy, out there kind of stuff. I haven't read this yet. This volume, I read volume 1, and it was incredible. So I can't wait to read more. And just fun, great comics. If you want like something a little bit under the radar, check out E.S. Glynn. His stuff's great. There's a picture of him right there. So, great comics. And also, these were published by Floating World, which you can get on their website too if you want. This is Clint Abel's Book of Mischief. Oh, sorry, I didn't even describe it. So this next stack came from Forbidden Planet, which I think only has 3 locations. I think there's the New York City one, I think there's one in London and one in Scotland, if I remember correctly. And that's where this came from, and then this too, and then the next book. This is Clint Abel's Book of Mischief. So Clint Abel recently did the Cain and Abel with Shaky Kane. That was like the same trim size, which is like a zine of like short comics. And I got that because I love Shaky Kane. Never really read anything from Clint Abel. So I was excited to pick this up because I think that's supposed to be Kanye West right there. I loved his work so much in Cain and Abel. Which Cain and Abel is kind of like a 2-man anthology comic, I guess, with a little bit of jam comic stuff in there too, which I'll probably show off one day in greater detail on this channel. But Clint Abel's got some great, weird comic artwork that I love. And different styles too. Like, look at this style compared to like this style compared to like this style. Like, that's all the same cartoonists doing all that stuff, which I just love. Colton Papers. So I'm loving Clint Abel's work. If you have any other leads on what other Clint Abel stuff I should try out, let me know. I'll probably do, if you guys want me to do a closer look on any of these books, let me know in the comments. So this is The Death Ray by Daniel Klaus. I said in an earlier video, I think it was a haul I did from Copacetic, if you want to check that out. Early 2021, maybe late 2020, I can't remember. But I said last year was going to be my big year where I collected most of Daniel Klaus' work. And I got a lot of it. I don't think I got everything. And here's the spine. I was hoping to get the complete 8-ball set, but that didn't happen. But Fantagraphics did announce that they were going to, or they have solicited a kind of a compendium that has the first 18 issues of 8-ball in it. So I will be getting that until I can find that box set for a good price. If anyone has a lead on that slipcase, complete 8-ball, let me know. But Daniel Klaus is just amazing. Just an ungrounded cartoonist with like odes to Steve Ditko. And this comic, you get that a lot because this one's all the serialized works that completed, or that had the death ray in it, right? Yeah, the Death Ray. And so this hardcover just collects all that. It's an awesome cartoon. And this was published by Drawn and Quarterly. So that all came from Forbidden Planet. These two came from Book Off. They're like a half-price books or like a used bookstore. They were just down there. I guess they're a couple blocks away, but I walked to them too and looked in there. I did find, and I left it there. If anybody wants to try to find it, it's this place in Manhattan called Book Off. The Michelini and Eric Larson Spider-Man Omnibus. Yes, the legit omnibus. $15. I didn't buy it. I know people are going to call me crazy, but I left it there because I was flying back home and I had already dispersed these books into different suitcases and stuff to make sure my luggage wasn't overweight. And I didn't particularly want the Spider-Man Larson omnibus for myself. If I bought it, I was probably just going to flip it anyways. And I just left it there as a gift for somebody else that maybe would find it and maybe hopefully really want it and not be flipping it. But there's a little tip there if you wanted that. This is King City by Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham's a cartoonist that I wanted to try out for a long time. I did pull his Rain Like Hammers series last year, and I love his artwork. It's very much like Mobius infused with like punk rock, infused with, I don't know. But I did read this, and I'm going to do my own separate video on it. This is an amazing comic book. It's one of the best comics I've read in a long time. I highly recommend it. I'm going to do a separate video on it talking all about how great it is. But Brandon Graham's a guy that I have my eye on right now as far as cartoonists that I want to go down the rabbit hole of collecting all their stuff. So it was King City. Got that at Book Off. And then also Book Off, I picked up Understanding Comics, The Invisible Art by Scott McCloud. It was only $9, and I have read this like a long time ago, like middle school, high school, and I don't have a copy, and I wanted to read it now that I feel like Understanding Comics is one of those comics that if you read it every like 5 to 10 years, you're going to pick up a lot more from it. Because back in high school when I read it, I was only reading pretty much just superhero comics, and that was it. I mean, just Marvel, DC superhero comics. The occasional Image title, maybe. So when I read it, like I didn't pick up a lot of the stuff in it, but now that I'm 15, 20 years removed from that, I've read so many more comics and my comic books taste have grown, so maybe now reading it again, I'll pick up some more stuff from it. It was a cheap copy, I wanted to pick it up. This next one I got from, oh man, I'm gonna butcher the name. It's called Kunikuo. I'll post the links to the shops that I went to in the description. How about that? But it's this Japanese bookstore. And it was right around the corner from my hotel too, which is great. And I was just like, I could have filled a whole suitcase with books just in that one shop. They had a lot of titles that were half price, even a lot of out of print titles. Like another tip, again, at that shop, I'll post the link in the description, but they had a copy of 50 Girls 50, the EC comics from Fantagraphics. I have a video on my channel of all the EC comics hardcovers from Fantagraphics, and that title in particular fetches like $150 plus on eBay, even though the cover price was like $30. They had it for half off there. Again, I left it there for someone else to find as a present. I could have bought it and flipped it myself, but I was trying to... Sometimes as a book collector, you want to have some goodwill in the collector's market. So there's a little tip for you too if you're looking for that book. The only one I got there, I think I got one of the Kirby mangas for my son, and maybe something else. I don't know. I didn't get... This is the only book I got for myself, though. And this is the Book of Hope from Tomi Mosturi. And he's a cartoonist I've wanted to try out. He came out with a book recently called Cracking that was published by Fantagraphics. Here's the under the dust jacket look to it. And he's just like, again, an incredible cartoonist that I wanted to look at because his artwork just really caught my eye. This one is more of a straightforward comic, I guess. And Cracking is more of like abstract, I think it's wordless even. But this one gave me like vibes of like Chris Ware or Seth. And I believe Tomi Mosturi, I'm going to mess this up. I think he's Finnish. Does it say on the back here? No. Oh, here's the name of the bookshop. Good, okay. This was Kinokuniya was the name of the bookshop. And this was listed as half off, even though its cover price $34. That's why I tried it out. Because a lot of Tomi Mosturi's comics are not cheap. So it's hard to find them for cheap. It even has a ribbon in it, which is cool. But yeah, so I'm going to try that out. That's my first Tomi Masturi comic. These next ones are going to be from the shop I went to in Pennsylvania, which is right in University Park, right where Penn State is. That's where I graduated. I'll post I forget the name of the shop too. I'll post the link in the description, I promise. I don't think any of these have tags on them that would tell me where they came from. No, they don't. Okay. The first one I got was Cats of the Louvre by Taiyo Matsumoto. So my wife, who does not read comics, doesn't want anything to do with comics really. She supports my hobby and supports that I love comics, but she's not into comics herself. She's read a few things here and there, mostly comic strips that I've passed along to her. But the guy at the shop convinced her to buy this, and she handed it to me. She's like, hey, this guy said this is really good, and he described it to me, and the premise sounded awesome. And I was like, Taiyo Matsumoto, how'd you get this book in your hands? Because, like I said, my wife doesn't read comics, so she definitely is not going to read manga. But then I was like, I love Taiyo Matsumoto. I've been reading his number 5 and his Ping Pong. I want to get Tech on Concrete. Again, if anybody has the leads on that, let me know. But so I was talking. So then that sparked a conversation I had with the guy working at the shop about how we both love Taiyo Matsumoto. So, Cats of the Louvre. Haven't read it yet, but I'm excited to. Paul Pope 100%. I have started reading this. Paul Pope is a cartoonist I've always wanted to try out. I've halfway through this right now, and I'm already scoping out his work. His artwork is just like, he's an ink slinger, is a word that cartoonists use. And this guy at the shop he's like, you have to read this. Like, this is one of the best comics I've ever read. And anytime I go to like another city in the shop, the guy at the shop recommends me a book, I kind of want to try it out. Just, it's kind of the journey of collecting comics. You're like, oh yeah, this guy, and you remember where you got these things, where you got these comic books, who recommended them to you. And it's kind of the fun part of the journey of collecting, I think. It kind of reminds me a lot of like Scrooge McDuck and the life and times of Scrooge McDuck. Like, you're a collector and you remember wherever you got these things. Same thing when I was collecting CDs back in the day. I went to different record stores and guys at the shop would recommend bands to me and stuff. I'd always remember where they came from. Anyways, Paul Pope. The only stuff I've read from him is when he would do like a one-off issue for DC or something, or he'd show up in an anthology. Like the one most recently I remember was that I was reading recently was he did an issue of Ecstatics, the Milligan and Allred X-Men comic. And his artwork's so weird and like unsettling, like his figure drawing and stuff, but like it's amazing. And this world of 100% that I've read so far is like super immersive, this great world building. It's like his own futuristic sci-fi tale. Like, it's basically Paul Pope doing like Blade Runner. So if you're into Paul Pope's work and that entices you, pick that up. This was on the shelf and I didn't even open it to look at it. I knew I wanted this book and I just grabbed it and put it in my stack and I was like, yes, I'm buying this. I've been looking for this. This is Flex Mentallo by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. This is a 4-issue series, I believe. 4 issues, right? Yes, 1 through 4. And it's about Flex Mentallo, and each issue takes place in a different period of comics. So you have like a Golden Age issue, you have one where it takes place like Dark Knight, Watchmen era, and so on. So it's kind of like a meta commentary on comic books while being a great story as well. I've not read this. I was actually looking for the single issues online. It's kind of torn between the two because I did do recoloring in this one and I prefer the original colors. But it was a hardcover and this is out of print and this was just cover price there, so I went ahead and picked it up. Then the other thing I got was Love and Rockets, the covers. I don't have this book. I've looked for it, had my eye on it. I don't know, does this come off? Oh, it does. Okay. I think this cover comes off. I don't want to mess it up. Yeah, and then back behind it is like a silhouette of the characters. But it's covered by Jaime Hernandez. I love Love and Rockets, and this collects all the covers from the series, which were all amazing. You even have a blurb here by Mobius, which I love. So I've been collecting Love and Rockets through the trade paperback omnibus editions. I love this too. Like you see, like the original art. Like this is a famous cover here, and you get the final layout, and you get it the full album size too. So this is bigger too. I believe Flex Metallo is standard size. If that no, Paul Pope is. So this is a standard size comic book. You can see how much bigger this book is. But Love and Rockets, it's a famous underground series. Period. There's Jaime, Gilbert, and Mario. But this collects all the original covers. So it's like kind of a coffee table book, really. It has like some original art pieces in the final colored edition. But they're famous comics, but they're also, their covers were just amazing. And this shows you like the front and back, because the back of the covers were also amazing pieces too. I might do my own, I need to do some Love and Rockets videos, period, on my channel. But I love Love and Rockets, and the trade paperback omnibus editions is how I've been collecting them, and they don't include the covers, so this is kind of a perfect companion to those. I think one day I might try to put a run together of the actual editions of Love and Rockets, because I think it'd be fun to read in that format. I have this shirt too that Fantagraphics recently released that has this great image by Jaime on it. But yeah, Love and Rockets is everything I love in comics. It's melodrama, romance, pro wrestling. You get punk rock, an ode to the old classic Archie comics mixed in, and just like the incredible world building. You see these characters age throughout the years too. This comic's been around since the early 80s, and it's still going today. They're still releasing issues today, and the characters are aging in real time, so great stuff. There's a picture of Jaime right there at his drawing table. Yeah, so I got that. So that's all I got from the shops, but I did get 3 other books that I want to show off that I got them from Cheap Graphic Novels. They had a Black Friday sale, so I got 3 books. This is August 1961, the much maligned, controversial omnibus that Marvel printed that everybody hates or wonders why they printed. I wanted this book so bad. The thing that deterred me though was the cover price. So the cover price is $150. This is only a 560-page omnibus. It is oversized, and the reason why the price tag is so high is because this is the first time a lot of these comics have ever been printed, or reprinted, I'm sorry, not printed. First time they've ever been reprinted, and it's reprinted and oversized. They touched up the artwork. It's amazing. I think Marvel does a great job of reprinting they've been doing a great job of reprinting their Golden Age comics, like the Golden Age omnibuses that I have of Submariner, Human Torch, and Simon and Kirby are just like breathtakingly great reprints. These are even, I love the paper quality. This is not like your typical Marvel omnibus paper quality. This is like more of a matte finish, and I love it because it gives you like kind of that newspaper print finish. But anyways, I'll probably do a longer video on this. But this basically collects all of the comics that came out and were published in August 1961. Obviously, that's a huge month in Marvel lore because that is when the first issue of Fantastic Four came out. So this is a really cool object of history. It's showing you like what Marvel was publishing when Fantastic Four came out. So you have Fantastic Four 1, which I have reprinted in a dozen formats. But really it's other stuff that I wanted to get. Like the Western comics, the romance comics that I've never read before. And it's just like a good, like I said, a historic object of what they were printing back then before they went gangbusters on superhero comics. So the reason why I got this, like I said, I was deterred by the cover price because $150 for a 500-page omnibus is insane. I was not going to pay cover price. I was not even going to pay 50% off. In-stock trade test this for 65% off recently, which took it down to $50. Still a little too much for me. Cheap graphic novels, Black Friday sale, they had it for $35, and I could not turn it down. It got torn a little bit right there. And I believe I don't think that happened in transit, but regardless. I'm happy to have it now for that cheaper price. $35 is well worth that money to me to have in my collection. The other books I got were Alex Sinner, volumes 1 and 2. These are published by Comics, IDW in print. And these are by Jose Munoz and Carlos Sampaio. And this collects the entire collection of their Alex Sinner stories. Why is this significant? If you have read a Frank Miller comic, if you've read Sin City in particular, then just me flipping through this will be like, wait a minute, this looks like B-sides to Frank Miller's Sin City comics. It's because Frank Miller was heavily influenced by Jose Munoz and Carlos Sampaio's work in Alex Sinner. So I wanted to try this out. He's an Argentinian cartoonist. I wanted to try this out and get a feel for it because I love crime. This is crime comics. It's Alex Sinner is this character that was originally on the police force, and then there's too many dirty cops within the police force, so he quit, retired, and now he's kind of like this vigilante, doing his own investigations, his own private investigations. And I even get like vibes too, more modern cartoonist. I think Taiyo Matsumoto, the aforementioned, I see a lot of his work in here. A lot of his influence. You can tell that, Jose Munoz and Carlos Sampaio obviously influenced Matsumoto in his work, which is one of the reasons why I love Matsumoto. He's Japanese, he does manga, but his influences, you see more of Mobius and Argentinian cartoonists like this than you do any sort of manga, and it kind of sets him apart from other mangaka. But yeah, so this is Alex Sinner. I got both of these. They were $15 a piece, so I got both of these for $30. And I heard that these are going slowly out of print, so if you're interested in these, I would pick them up sooner rather than later. So yeah, so that's all my haul from New York and Pennsylvania and cheap graphic novels. I thank you guys for watching. Like I said, put it in the comments below if you want me to do a closer look on any of these books. If you want me to do a cartoonist spotlight on any of the cartoonists I've mentioned. Or if you have recommendations for me based on any of the books here. I'd love to hear that. And then give the video a thumbs up, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos that I have coming out soon. Thank you.